Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Business and People podcast. I'm your host, Walt Bayliss, and today on our show, we have none other than the image maker, Mr. Jon Michail. And Jon has built a successful retail industry and then transitioned into becoming one of the biggest image consultant and personal branding coaches in the world. Jon's worked with some incredible clients, including at a government level, but more importantly, at a private level, including big name brands such as L'Oreal, one of the biggest companies in the world with BHP Billiton. He's worked with sporting clubs and media. He develops people's personal brand so that their success stories can shine through. And it's a real honor to have Jon on the show with us. Jon, thanks so much for joining me.
Good morning, Walter, and greetings to all your listeners.
Thanks, mate. Jon, it's a great transition that you've been through, working with some of the biggest brand names in terms of luxury fashion in the world, bringing those into a retail environment, and then taking that and I guess transitioning into a bigger image branding consultancy. How did that all come to pass for you?
Well, how it started was my background was as a fashion designer, so I worked for the Christian Dior brand. That led me to eventually starting my own manufacturing company. I had about 200 staff at the time when in Australia you could manufacture, right. And also led to an import business, some of the biggest brands in the world before they even had stores in Australia, like Giorgio Armani, Gianni Versace, Prada, Yohji Yamamoto, and so on. So basically, we built that business. It was a very successful business. And then we said, what's next? Because, I'm a guy that always wants to control my own destiny. So from there, we basically decided to go into retail. So we had a total vertical operation. We did everything. Wow. And what that meant was we had about 200 retail accounts around Australia. And part of that was, of course, freedom, but also it was about really... at times, retailers would not pay their bills, right? You had to chase them. So it was like, man, I don't like this. So we decided to start our own stores. We ended up having 10 stores in the upper end of the male fashion business.
Right.
We're talking about quality here, quality Italian fabrics, French, German, and so on. Yeah. And basically, it was a great business. I loved it. And it's still a passion from the point of view of the artistry and the artisan aspect of what we're doing till now. What happened was, this is going back now, let's say 25 years ago, we opened a cafe in one of the retail stores, and that was in Chapel Street in South Yarra. And what happened was I noticed, because I wasn't working the store, I had my, my managers and the teams, but I would go there every Saturday. Mm. And somehow, the interesting thing was on Saturdays, I used to do some really big sales with clients. And then the week, and it was like unbelievable. And of course, my managers would always say, you're a fluke, you're just an ass, rah, 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 right? Okay. But, there was something around attracting the energy, the right energy that basically got people to come to me. Okay. Yeah. And what happened was, over a period of time, I noticed this. I noticed that I had clients that would come in every week wanting to buy something that really didn't need to buy anything.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like they bought that, that shirt last week. They bought 3 ties the week before, right? They don't need anymore right now. So what happened? In my own self-reflection, what I really got was they just wanted to come there and spend time with me.
Awesome.
Obviously, they were getting something, right?
Yeah. That
I, at that time, was not valuing.
Yeah, sure.
It was like I was just giving it, right? Bang, bang. And what happened was, from there, we decided to start a consulting company on the side, with the intention, of course, of, even if it was a subconscious thing, in the future, that's what I'll be doing.
Nice. Yeah.
Because I like people more than product.
Got it.
I like empowering people about their freedom, many, many X's beyond just selling you a product.
Yeah, definitely.
So from that, we started a coaching business. It was part of, the whole group at the start. And from then on, basically, period of time, in 1997, I sold the whole fashion business.
Yeah.
and then became, so 97's officially where the new company started, but I've been doing this all along since 1989. So it's been 30 years.
Wow. So you nearly know what you're doing then, John.
Well, you would hope so. I mean, you would hope so. Look, I've done well over 7,500 one-on-ones, know,
yeah,
and hundreds of thousands from a seminar perspective. And we're talking about 4 continents here.
Yeah.
We're talking about doing seminars internationally before online, right?
Yeah.
Where you had to fly over there, do the deals, attract people to get there, shake hands, build relationships. It was hard work.
Absolutely.
So what the retail side to this day has given me is this resilience, right?
Yep.
Basically, it's given me high customer service values.
Yep.
In other words, respect your clients. Retail has always been a tough game. Where, today you've got online businesses that don't respect their clients, okay?
Yep, it's a transaction.
It's all a transaction where our approach has always been relational, okay?
Sure.
It's how to build relationships because it's what I believe in. It's what I've been brought up in believing. And basically what retail also, taught me was, I said, resilience. It's basically going with the ebbs and flows, and so it's been really, really valuable. And sometimes, unless you do the self-reflection and the evaluation, you think, you miss out some of those gems,
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was the story there. And basically from there, I decided to become partners with the guru of the time, Robert Ponte from San Francisco. I bought his book. I'll quickly tell you the story because it's a
Please do.
Story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great story. So I bought this book called Dressing to Win. Remember, I was in fashion, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And Robert was a little bit, on the edge, a bit crazy and so on. So I read this book. I get really excited. I find out the publisher of the book. It was Doubleday in New York. I send them at that time, believe it or not, italics.
Wow.
Right?
There you go.
Right? From the post office. Okay. And I got a response back in 2 days. I couldn't believe it. And what I was inquiring about was I want to, find out who this guy is. Where can I contact him? I want to have a chat, rah, rah, rah. I get these details. Wow. Unbelievable. And the phone number had his holiday house in Hawaii.
Fantastic.
So guess what I do? I get on the phone and I call this number in Hawaii. Hello, ring, ring, ring. My name is Jon Michail. I'm from Australia. I've read your book. I loved it and would love the opportunity to know more about you and possibly meet you. Well, he said, I'm in Hawaii. I'm having a holiday. Rah, rah, rah. It's not always that easy to do that. I said, look, cut a long story short. After having a conversation with him for at least, 15 odd minutes, I said, you know what's happening? I said, I'm flying to Honolulu in a week's time. And if you're still in Honolulu, I'm going to get off at the airport and call you. And if you basically decide that you'd love to catch up with me, okay, we will create that, obviously. If not, doesn't matter. We're still friends. I'll contact you somewhere else and maybe we'll meet in San Francisco.
Yep.
Well, between me and you and your audience, I had no intention of going to Honolulu.
Yeah, of course.
Okay?
You have to make it happen.
I created that possibility at the moment.
Yep.
Right? And in that moment, I created that possibility. So what happened was I decided to get a ticket to Honolulu, and it was 2 weeks later, not a week. Okay? So I was busy. I couldn't do it exactly in the week. So I take a trip to Honolulu. I get off at the airport. I call the number. I say, hello, my name is Jon Michail. You remember me? I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I hope that, the opportunity comes and we can meet. Well, what happened was Robert basically said, oh, that's great. He was very polite and generous. He said, you wait at the airport and I'll come and pick you up.
Wow.
He came and picked me up. He took me to his place and we stayed there together for 3 days.
Wow.
He took me around all Honolulu to show me how he was doing business in Honolulu. Exactly in the work I was doing as an image maker, that of course he was doing a little bit differently, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I wanted to mentor, I wanted to be basically shown the ropes. And from that, we became close, that I became partners with Robert, launched him all over Asia, and basically I remember the first seminar in Kuala Lumpur, that really was over 200 people. That was a really great deal. And we earned a fortune.
Fantastic.
Okay?
Fantastic.
Yeah, from there, basically, I brought him into Australia as well. And we're running seminars, workshops for at least 5 years together before I made the decision, okay, I'm going now totally on my own.
Fantastic.
And we're talking about, totally on my own in my late 20s, maybe late 20s. So that was really my initiation to the world of image from a perspective of the human side as opposed to the product.
I love it. I love it, John, because what I'm seeing is that, as a young man with the passion and the energy, reaching out to someone as a mentor in the space and going to work with that person in a partnership, learning the ropes. And that's, obviously been able to launch now what is the Image Group International, obviously global, consulting agency looking after people's personal branding. And that's a fantastic stepping stone all the way through. So John, now that you have got the Image Group and now that you're taking people's personal branding and helping them with their messages, what's the kind of the overall starting point for people when they're looking at their personal brand? You're taking somebody and saying, okay, let's make this into something special. Where do you start with that person?
Superb. That's a great question. So if you can imagine a triangle.
Yep.
Okay. At the bottom, we have what's known as build. That's number one. Number two is known as promote.
Mm-hmm.
And number three is cash in. And I'm going to explain to you what they mean.
Tell me.
The build is the foundations.
Got it.
So before you do anything in launching a brand, you've got to get your foundations right. And I'll give you a bit more information what that looks like in a second.
Great.
The promote side is the fame, is getting known. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can have the greatest product on the planet, service, whatever. If the world doesn't find out about it in getting known, okay, you're going to die with the greatest secret on the planet in history.
Yeah.
That's not found out. And the cash in equals three different things. And of course, we can break that up. But from a simplicity point of view, the cash in means obviously financial wealth. Okay, you get a financial return.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients look for that as one of the KPIs. Yeah. Number two is reputational equity. Yeah. What your reputation means. Now, that also is a value proposition. That's also got equity, right? So depending who you are, for some people that's more important than others. Yeah. And the last bit is legacy. Legacy is more what I would call clients 45, 50 plus, right? That have actually already got all the success in the world, right? The last thing they need is any more money because they got heaps of it. But what they want to do is leave something behind. Yeah, sure. Yeah, leave something behind. And this is, leave something behind that basically sort of encapsulates their life. And I have some philanthropist clients like that, it's beautiful because, I wish I was one of them at their level, right? Sure. That you can give, $100 million away every year, right? It's like, wow, It's a different world. Sorry? It's a different world. It's a different playing field. It's a different world. And I've been privileged to sort of taste that. Now, the good thing about what you saw in my pyramid was this, and this is essential. You've got to create a strategy, meaning the build, before your tactics. Okay. So our approach is totally holistic. It's online and offline. Yeah. So what's essential here is basically that you don't get caught up with tactics first before strategy. So when we talk about, sorry, John, I didn't mean to cut you off there. When we talk about tactics, we're talking about don't get caught up in, 100 Facebook posts and sending out on Instagram and LinkedIn profiling and YouTube advertising. That's tactics for promotional. So we need to get that foundation right first. How will we go about putting that foundation in place? You're spot on. That was great. So how we get the foundation, basically, the first thing is we ask a question, right? You got to get clear on what your values are. Because if you're not clear on your values, they're not going to basically, your values will drive your goals. Got it. Not the other way around, right? Goals, again, is a tactic, right? Yeah, sure, okay. But your values, you got to get clear on what your values are. Now, let me tell you, I came from the fashion world. That's the image world. At times, my values were very conflicting, right?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
It created a lot of internal pain, right? Because basically, unless you get your values clear, you can get yourself in all sorts of problems. And what I mean by that is just look at the world today, the Western world, right? A lot of internal mental problems, health problems, and so on, because there's an incongruence of the values. So in other words, you're putting out an image out there that's incongruent with what's on the inside.
Yeah.
So now, so I've had to do a lot of work on that space, right?
Yeah.
And you can't be an effective coach if you haven't done that.
Sure.
Yeah. What you've become is what I would call is a corporatized coach. Say
right.
all the right things, the political correct stuff, okay? And you look good, but you make very little difference on your clients and definitely from a humanity perspective.
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
You're just a tick the box guy. So, good. Going back to your question is like, what you got to ask yourself is, how do you define success for you? So in other words, what does success look like to me? Right?
Yeah. Literally define it.
That's number one. That's personal.
Yeah.
Not what society defines success as.
It's a very big difference.
Big difference. Okay? It's your success, not what the world's telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah? And basically, then do a comparison of the two. And then create a congruency, right, where you fit in this whole game. Where do you fit in all of this? And the comparison basically is then, you get to create your strategy as per your personal values. Yeah. And then the tactics that come from there, so you can create, from my perspective, doing good, making a difference, and then prospering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to get really clear. And there's basically that, and there's online tactics, right?
Yep.
And then there is basic, and then we would call that online branding is tactics. The offline branding is strategy.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So you got to, so what you've got today, especially with a younger generation, is you've got a lot of tactics, social media posts, right? All of this, for me, that's all noise.
Yeah, sure.
It's noise, confusion, distractions, right? Forget about looking at the Kardashians and how they make, $1 million a post, right?
Yeah.
That's not the real world. That's
a different business model than most.
Different business model, okay? And I've worked, aspects of that business model. That's not for everybody.
Yeah, sure.
Right? That is a confusing Hollywood business model.
Okay? Yeah, just like NBA basketball is not for everybody.
Thank you very much. Exactly. So you got to get really clear on that, because if you don't get clear, remember, we're all conditioned from an early age, okay, which way to go, okay? So unless you've had mentors and you've had great educators around you and people that really, part of your network, most people probably miss out there, and I'll give you many examples of that if you want, because I've had them in my clients, okay? Sure. So you got to really define what success is, what success is, because if you don't, there's a lot of tripwires out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially with the connected social media world, and we talked a little bit about, I heard you mention the disparity between the image and the values, and there is a lot of breakdown between what people are feeling they should be posting socially and presenting that successful persona, where as soon as that post is finished, the darkness kicks in, and there's a lot of that going on, and it can start from the teenage years, as soon as they got access to that social media, right through now into that kind of second generation where we're talking 55 and 60 plus, who've got that big gap, big age range there, that it's affecting everyone. And that's probably a topic for a whole different podcast. But I think, where you're talking about defining what success is for you, would I be right in saying the other thing when we're looking at values is to say, what do I stand for as a person? If nobody else was around me, how do I define what's important to me?
100%. You're spot on, Walter. And basically, going back to the values, because you said about your image and then internal, right?
Yeah.
Both matter.
Sure.
You got to own your intrinsic values and your extrinsic values. So intrinsic is obviously how you feel on the inside. Example, confidence and so on, right? Extrinsic is how do you show up in the world?
Yeah, right. How do others see you?
100%. And we need to get clear on this, right? Because example, if you look like a loser, the world's giving you back that reflection.
Yeah.
So what you got to really own everything, including the beauty, the aesthetic aspects of beauty in all elements. So you got to look the part, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless unless you are so rich that you can afford not to look the part.
Right, and then your own quirkiness becomes your own style, but you have to be that one. Yeah. So
exactly. Yes, so quirkiness and so on, quirkiness and all of that comes from what I would call is internal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You can still be very quirky. I got a lot of stand-up, right? Comedy.
Nice.
Right? A lot of quirky guys, right? But you can tell the ones that really, and stand-up is one of the hardest jobs on the planet, right? But basically, you still got to have a respect for the way you present to the world. In other words, how do you show up? And show up, of course, is from internal and external as well. But from a simplicity point of view, I'm using this from an image perspective now.
Yeah? Sure.
Because if you don't understand that, or you go in denial around that, right, then the world will respond to you in such a way. And then you say, oh, I don't like that. Why are they talking to me like that? Because basically your image is speaking so loud that they can't hear you.
So it's important to actually identify internally with who you are and how you feel, so that because we have to have these as congruent, right? We have to have the internal and the external congruent. So owning who you are, and before you get to the point of broadcasting that, will in a lot of ways, or in every way, insulate you from the backlash that is society. So if you are quirky, if you are that particular type of person, own that 100%, present yourself as 100% genuinely. And then when you get that reflection back from the external social media sources, it's not a surprise. It's something that you can say, yeah, that is who I am. And we can grow with that and move forward. I think that's
100%. Yeah, please continue.
No, I was going to say, I think that's a really important point, John. And I think, we see so many times that people trying to present that, let's use the word image, trying to present that image that is disconnected from who they are, who they really are as a person. So let's come back to
a message. If you're not congruent, what will happen is you'll get feedback that you don't like.
Yeah, it'll be shocking.
And I promise you what will happen over a period of time is you will start feeling like a victim.
Yep.
And that's what's going on today with all the trolls and all of that.
Yep.
Right? Victimhood, you got to get, is a big business model in society.
Yeah. Wow.
Empowerment is a different game. I'm in the empowerment business. Okay.
Nice. It's a nice business to be in, man.
Yeah. And the distinction is very simple. Okay. If you want to get a distinction on the two, empowerment is I'm giving you something.
Yeah.
And I don't need anything back.
Yeah.
Victimhood is I want something.
Yeah.
I want something from you to feel good, to feel, I feel a void, right?
Yep.
And that's a distinction, and that's a distinction because today victimhood as a model is everywhere. Okay. And, and my point, and I want to make this as a point, even if you are a victim, it doesn't serve you to live your life like a victim.
Yeah.
I've had victims, I've had, clients, at times I've been a victim, right? It doesn't serve you. It actually pulls you down.
Absolutely. We had a guest a few episodes ago, John. Her name was Trish Jones, and she's a best-selling author. She actually she phrased it this way. She's been through some tragic things in her life, and she had a coach, a mentor, who said to her, while she was spilling all the victim stuff, all the terrible things that had happened to her, her coach simply said to her, Trish, what do you want the end of that story to look like?
Yeah. Beautiful. Superb.
Hang on, just stop. Because you're spilling all the stuff, I understand, but now you get to write the ending, right? You get to choose how you move forward with that. John, let's see if we can help some people. They're listening to the podcast in the car, they're heading to work. Let's see, most of the people that are listening are entrepreneurs or self-driven people. They might be listening to this and thinking to themselves, John, if I've got this great idea, I'm starting this company and I really don't know how to present myself in a way that is going to help me grow my business? What would you say to them in terms of like 3 or 4 tips that can help them kind of grow their business and their own branding as a result of some quick and easy changes that they might be able to make?
Okay, so we've already discussed the internal stuff. Okay,
yep.
And there's a whole obviously sequence of how you deal with that. From an external point of view, is definitely we know presentation matters. You know, you're married, Walter, right?
I am, sir.
Right. Yeah. So you didn't go looking for the ugliest woman on the planet, did you?
No.
No. Okay. Now, I've said it to some of my clients and they've said, no, but I attracted her. Okay. Well, if you've attracted that, that's because there's an internal issue going on. That's a So we know aesthetic beauty is essential.
Okay.
Like the piece of art you got in the background, it's all part of beauty.
Sure.
So no different to when you go to a restaurant, you want your meal to look beautiful, attractive, right? You don't want it to look like mush. Yeah. You know, your home, you want it to be presented in a certain way. But not only that, we know historically, and of course the Chinese call it feng shui, you know, and of course the Western perspective comes from geomancy. It's all about the right energy. So being attractive is important, you know, and attractive, I don't want to sound like superficial there, right? Because whatever you've been born with, as far as I'm concerned, you can create magic from that, right? Yeah. So presenting well is important, even if it's, and I don't mean suits here, this is essential. Forget about that. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about suits and ties. We're talking about basically whoever you are, just own it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Own it.
Yeah.
That's that from a physical perspective. Then, of course, you're looking at every aspect of your communication, the way you relate to people, you know, your networking skills, all these are essential. And then from an offline perspective, we go into the digital side, then you've got to do the same thing there.
Yep.
So if you're incongruent, for instance, if you have a website that's incongruent, so remember I came from retail, right? I had luxury stores.
Yeah.
The stores had to look beautiful. They had to present well. Your website is a store.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't present well, customers say goodbye.
Yeah, that's it.
The worst bit about it though is with the website is you haven't got somebody there to say, hey, sir, ma'am, can you please come back?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you don't have that chance.
You got that. They're gone. Goodbye, Charlie. Yeah.
2 seconds.
And as we know, you know, your heat maps and so on clearly show you that, right?
Yeah.
So what's essential here is that you get that right as well.
Get your house in order.
Right, and I want to be practical. You want to get the UX right as well, right?
Yep.
You know, the appearance. You got the tech side and then you got the visual side. Well, I work with clients in mixing the two, okay, to get both spot on.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you don't, you're going to be incongruent. Okay. And by the way, it's not like we're doing things perfectly as well. We're constantly trying to reevaluate because, as you know, the digital world is shifting sands daily.
Things change.
You know, so you got to get that spot on as well. So from an online, offline, you got to get them to be congruent. You know, and basically from there, it's specifically you know, creating. Obviously, if you're going to be looking for clients, you know, creating your offer that deals really with people's real pain spots. You know, why are they coming to you? Why are they coming to you? Now, for something like that, you know, entrepreneurs, for instance, entrepreneurs have got numerous challenges, right? You know, and one of the biggest, of course, is getting clients. Yeah. You know, like every small business or SME or startup, it's getting clients, or it could be attracting money. Yeah.
Yep.
How are you going to attract money, right, when you look like unattractable? Think about what I'm saying here.
And again, I have to reinforce, John, you're not talking about the looks in terms of what we're born with, because that is 100% given to you as a gift. What we're talking about is how. Well,
actually, you can even change that these days.
Yeah, well, that's right. Exactly. If you've got the money, you can.
I'm not suggesting that.
No, not at all. No, but you're not talking about the, you know, attractiveness in terms of a physical appearance. You're talking about attractiveness in terms of what you're bringing from inside you, making yourself an attractive, making that a proposition, a person that you want to be around. Your story started with when you were going to the stores on the Saturday morning, People were coming in to spend time with you because they wanted that connection and they felt that coming back to them. And if we're talking to the people who are listening, if you can make yourself more attractive in terms of what you are giving to other people, then they will naturally be attracted to you. And I think that's a great lesson.
100%, yeah. And you've encapsulated that very nice, right? But you can only do that when you get clear on yourself.
Got it.
Yeah. If you're running on a corporatized model of ticking all the boxes, that's fine. That's not my model.
Yeah. Sure.
It's not my model. It's basically going deeper, because what you want to do, and I do believe in legacy, is at the end of your day, a bit like what your coach said in one of your calls. Basically, it's what do you want the story to look like in the end?
That's it.
If the case is going to be basically that you're going to have all of these material possessions that are a lot of fun, by the way, but if you haven't got the true deep meaning of what it's all about for you, well, then I think potentially you've lost the boat. And you can quote me on that, because I've got those as clients.
Absolutely. I love it.
I've got them as clients, and some even as friends. The big thing for me is, if you want to really know how I define success from my perspective to help, your entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs, of course, a lot of it is like, oh, let's make as much money as we can, crush the deals. I think that's all immature, veneer, very superficial stuff, right? That fits in with the society mode of what success looks like, because of course it's all in the end about consumerism, right?
Sure.
Okay. From my perspective, it's about time freedom, right? It's about location freedom. It's about association freedom. I mean, don't tell me who to hang around with. I want to be able to do that with who I want, whenever I want, And the last one is purpose freedom. So I can do whatever I want in this lifetime.
Yeah, that's it.
We live in Australia, right? We live in Australia.
Yeah.
The greatest country on the planet. There's no excuse specifically to be playing the miserable game, right? There's no excuse.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, at the end of my days, how would I measure myself? A strong, connected family, right?
That's it.
A group of friends and connections that we basically hang around with. Great health. You can't buy health. You've got to be health.
Yeah, right. You got to live it every day.
You got to live it every day, right? You can't expect the doctor to
inject you with health.
They're just a conduit.
Yeah.
Right? It's up to us in the end, an abundant giving mindset. Yeah? Because when I'm operating like that in my being, I feel alive.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? I feel alive.
You get that juice coming through from just being able to operate at that level, which really is the definition from a success point of view. I think, 90% of people, if you ask them what they want in their life, John, they're going to answer happiness, and that's not an amount. That's not a bank account. Happiness isn't an amount that you have in the bank. Happiness comes from, as you said, having that time freedom, having that freedom of personalities, being able to connect with the people you want to connect with, having the ability to give without question to others. That gives the happiness that comes from within, and you can live your days every day like that, regardless of the income level. And from everything that we've been taught, that level of happiness is naturally attracting to income anyway. So it's almost like a byproduct.
Yeah, I mean, happiness is a modern concept. The philosophers throughout history did not talk about happiness. It was about moments of joy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's joy. Are you joyful right now? Right? Yep. And are you joyful also when things are going down? Are you grateful for that dark side that's coming up for you? Or are you denying that? Right?
Yeah.
So when you do some of the personal work internally, okay, it's up to you how you measure success, right? Yeah. So from a financial point of view, we all want to do well financially, and I support that 100%. But that's really the scoreboard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
That's how well you've played every other bit of the game.
Exactly. You don't get born and saying, I want to become the richest man in the world. Okay. What you want to be doing is living a life of purpose, right? You get up every morning, I've got a lot of wealthy friends, right? And clients specifically that, obviously they've attracted to me because they lost their purpose. There's nothing worse than having all the money and time and no purpose.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a formula for insanity.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
purpose for us is important. For human beings,
I love it.
and especially for men. Women are definitely more resilient.
Yeah.
Right? They are more resilient than us blokes. And men specifically, when they lose their purpose, and you think there's any mistake when they retire at a younger age, before you know it, they're dead, within 5 years.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's essential that whatever you're going to do, you're contributing to society and, of course, the community. I think that's essential.
Absolutely.
It's certainly important for me.
And moving that goalpost continually, we've talked before on the podcast about what we call back from the moon syndrome. Even if as an entrepreneur, you set a big goal and achieve it, and then there's that depression afterwards of, well, now what? And it's having that purpose, as you're saying, to be able to consistently say, well, this is what I'm going to do next, and this is what I'm going to do next, and moving that forward. Jon, I'm so grateful for your time. The construction of that pyramid, as we were talking about personal branding and taking that image of yourself forward, I think that base level of purpose, defining success and who you stand for and what you stand for, when you're dark and alone and there's nobody around you, who are you? I think that's a fantastic model for people to be able to move forward with. And then obviously from there, move into promotion, as we said, technique and tactics, that comes at a different step. And then the profit, the cashing in is the last one. Jon, I know you've written a couple of books. You've got a new ebook out that people can tap into as a bit of a gift from you to the listeners?
Yes, I have a new ebook. It's actually, it's not even out there yet. So it's ready, we're organizing to get that out to our database. But I've been, wrapped to offer it to you.
That'd be great, mate. That'd be fantastic. Appreciate it.
Authentic Personal Branding, a Real World Approach.
Fantastic.
And it's a good introduction to personal branding from some of the conversations we've had. And definitely, it's a bit of a guide to get you on the right track without you spending a fortune.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jon. How can people get hold of that?
Best is to respond to Jon Michail, and Jon Michail is JonMichail at imagegroup.com.au, and just say, yes, podcast ebook.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that that's in the show notes as well, Jon. And thank you so much. That's an incredible gift. And I think taking that forward, the best gift as a listener that you can give is to make yourself more attractive by defining your purpose and defining your position in life. And thank you, Jon, for helping us to understand what that can mean. For the people who are listening, the gift that you can give to your family, to your company, to the society, to your community is that better attractive personality, that being a person whose image is naturally attractive to others. And thanks to Jon for the guidance there. Jon, the CEO of the Image Group International, an amazing consulting, personal branding coach. I really thank you for your time, mate, and wish you all the very best of success.
Walter, thank you very much. You're a champion. And I obviously wish your listeners a lot of abundance in their lives from now on. And abundance means, of course, inner and outer.
Fantastic.
So till next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jon, and we appreciate it. See you next time.
Ciao.